Hey guys, it's Sean from Saturday Morning Cartoons. Before we get started with this week's episode, we would be remiss if we didn't say and give a shout out to our first sponsor for the show. We are, of course, talking about Red Apron. What is Red Apron, Dave?
Yeah, we are super happy to have Red Apron sponsoring this show. You guys might be familiar with some other food subscription services out there. You pay, $20 a box for them to send you basically a shitload of dirty vegetables every week. And I mean, that's fine if that's what you kind of want to do. But some of us red-blooded Americans want some actual red-blooded meat to sink our teeth into. That's where Red Apron comes in. Sean, I don't know if you've heard about this before or not, but let me ask you this. What if I offered you up the freshest possible steak imaginable? Would you be into that?
Dave, it sounds like you're going to be sending real livestock to my front door in a box.
You beat me to it, buddy. You get to slaughter your own livestock right at your front door each and every week through Red Apron. We are so happy to have them as a sponsor of this show. I'm just getting geared up to go slaughter a cow right out back tonight, and I'm gonna have dinner for the rest of the month. And we're so happy that they're sponsoring the show because I can't think of anything that complements Saturday morning cartoons better than a raw, rare steak. When you sit down to watch cartoons, there's just nothing better. Am I right, kids?
Yeah, that makes the most sense that I've ever heard in my life. So, guys, head over to www.redapron.com/SMC, enter in the coupon code SMC, and you will get absolutely fucking nothing.
That's right.
Guys, do you really want us to do these kind of adverts
We don't.
at the beginning of our show?
We like to make fun of them, but we don't really want to do them, make you suffer through them.
So, what we're asking you guys is to head over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. And for the amount of a cup of coffee that you would spend at a Starbucks, you can support high-quality podcasting just like this one.
This episode not sponsored by Starbucks.
Absolutely not. So, guys, if you're enjoying the show, please head over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. You can donate there. Much appreciated. If you don't want to donate, you can please head over and just rate and review us on iTunes and share it with a friend. Just get the word out about the show. We really appreciate it, guys. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys for listening, and on with the show. Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from the ComV, I'll be your safari guide, Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, he's a feral child raised by orangutans. It's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, Sean?
David. I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
Doing good. We're continuing New Year's Nicktoons here this week. We're getting into one that I'm more familiar with. I'm not going to give away how I thought about this particular show, but I remembered liking it more than I did. What are your thoughts on this one here?
I was aware of this.
Yeah.
I think I maybe watched a couple episodes. I don't know it. I had a lukewarm opinion going into it, but I found out that I was pleasantly surprised.
Interesting. Wow, we might actually have a difference of opinion on this one. I guess we're about to find
out.
Teaser. But before we get into that, Sean's going to walk us through a brief history of this particular Nicktoon.
Guys, we should first and foremost mention that we are talking about the Wild Thornberrys. And the Wild Thornberrys is an American animated television series produced by Klasky and Chupo for Nickelodeon. It premiered in 1998 and was the first Nicktoon to exclusively use 22-minute stories. Episode of other Nicktoons usually featured 2, 10, or 11-minute stories, using the 22-minute stories only on occasion. So the show was rerun on Nickelodeon and occasionally the Nicktoons network until late in 2007. Following the Shout Factory's acquisition of the title in 2011, all 5 seasons and 90 episodes have been released on DVD except for the pilot episode, which was never released. Never released.
It's a ghost pilot. So yeah, if you guys find that one out there, let us know. I didn't actively search it, but who knows? Maybe it's one of the lost treasures of the Wild Thornberrys. As for what the show is actually about, here we go. The series followed the Thornberrys, a nomadic family of documentary filmmakers famous for their televised wildlife studies. It centers on the family's younger daughter Eliza and her secret gift of being able to communicate with animals, which was bestowed upon her after having rescued a shaman masquerading as a trapped warthog.
Oh man, the old classic
classic
shaman
shtick.
masquerading as a trapdoor. Who hasn't Who hasn't been bestowed the gift to be able to communicate with animals after rescuing a shaman masquerading as a trapped warhog?
It gets me every time. I never see it coming. That old chestnut.
If I can count the number of animals that I can speak to,
Mhm.
Amazing.
I love that the number of animals is amazing.
The number of animals is amazing.
Is amazing. What's interesting is that this power sounds like it would be pretty central to most of the plots that we see. However, it's not used like 100% of the time, which was confusing. I feel like if you're going to use it, just use it the whole time and maybe don't, half-ass it and miscommunicate things that's going to screw everything up. But that's just me. What do I know? I can't talk to animals.
But Dave, if we don't do that, then there's no lesson learned.
Oh, I see. Now I get it.
There's no lesson learned in these cartoons unless there's a little bit of miscommunication.
We will definitely get into my thoughts on this particular protagonist and how she differs from a lot of the other ones. Normally in cartoons and literally anything, something has to happen in order to progress the story and to drive some sort of conflict. It's just rare that you see the protagonist actually causing their own sources of conflict. So without saying any more, let's talk about this particular theme song here tonight. So what are your thoughts on this one?
This was interesting because this is again I liked the theme song. I thought it was okay for the simple fact that it provides a ton of exposition.
Yes.
Because this is a really kind of crazy family unit. And so it's not the normal nuclear family that you would come to think of. This is something that's very, very different. But the way that this is narrated to you from Eliza, she starts out by just saying, it's an average family. And then she goes on into sort of the weeds of the family. And you're just like, wait, what?
There's nothing about this family that's average.
There's nothing average about this whatsoever. They have a character named Donnie, who is some sort of Aboriginal child that she says in the theme song, she goes, "We found him." I was like, "Oh, that's kidnapping."
Yeah.
To which
his backstory is super dark, and we'll talk about it in a second, but yeah.
Well, they followed up with saying that Darwin, this monkey character that they have, they're like, he found us. And I was like, well, that is an additionally clever way of saying kidnapping. So chimp napping. Mm-hmm. So congratulations.
That's called poaching.
She's just it's poaching. And so a lot of people pay a ton of money to be able to do something like that, but they don't keep him around unless it's on a trophy on your wall.
Yeah, they often don't make like cartoon documentaries about it. As far as I know, this might be the only cartoon documentary to feature poached chimpanzees and feral children. Call me crazy. I don't think there's too many of them out there.
No. This is pretty unique in that sense, which brings you to the fact then that she kind of polishes off this gem with the additional fact of, oh, and I can also speak to animals, followed by the exposition of, I guess we're anything but average. And I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit.
She figured it out in 30 seconds that, I guess we're not super average. I love that in the intro, though, it gives you what I'm assuming was in the pilot, maybe not, was that whole backstory about how she like found a trapped warthog, tried to help it. It was actually a shaman in disguise. He woke up and then pointed his staff at her and gave her the power to speak to animals and then disappeared, presumably forever. So I love that that's all kind of like crammed into this theme song, because if you've never seen the show before, now you're caught up with pretty much everything you need to know. And then the theme song goes from that to just kind of showing like, not really clips. I don't know if they were segments of other episodes or if it was just random animation of like their vehicle, which is called the COM-V, for a hybrid of communications vehicle. Shows that kind of like out in the safari and out in different jungles and in various wildlands and different animals that they're kind of running alongside and things like that. So I like this as an intro, but not as a theme song, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's not really. There's not much to it as far as theme goes.
Yeah, there's if this is setting the stage, I guess it really kind of boils down to, in terms of a theme song, what is our definition of theme song? Is it something where it's just a lot of exposition that's sort of being thrown at you? Is it something where there's a music kind of riff or soundtrack that's behind it? Is there synthesized robot voices that happen in the background? Yeah, I know. Double ugh. Or is it something where it's music and it's sung to you, and there's a lot of like, really kind of weird guitar music and like shredding and stuff like that for no apparent reason.
Is
You're
it just
like,
45
all right.
seconds of a giant floating golden skull in space shouting skeleton warriors at you?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That
Yeah,
counts.
so I mean, there's a lot of things in terms of a definition of a theme song, but I think, you know, if the theme song, and I'll posit this, is that if the theme song's idea is to kind of set the stage and allow you to seamlessly transition and sort of move into the show without really any prior knowledge to the show, this does a decent job of being able to set that up with it's just very heavy-handed in terms of exposition.
Yeah, I didn't mind it because it was just like, hey, look, if you haven't been watching for the last, I don't know, 5 seasons and 6 episodes, here's the story in a nutshell, and now you're caught up. And then the rest of it was just kind of like colorful filler because it wasn't really much of a theme song. I can't really remember it. It's not super memorable, but I remember the exposition part of it, and that was fine because you are kind of introduced to like 6.5 dozen characters here who you can kind of figure where they fit in the family unit, but you might not understand why certain things are happening. So before we get into tonight's episode that we watched, which is Season 5, Episode 7, Look Who's Squawking, let's briefly run down these characters so you know who we're talking about once we hit their names in the discussion.
Yeah, you know, I'll say this just about these characters. One of the things that I really love, now that we're kind of getting into the character study of this, I love the fact that that Nigel and Marianne, Nigel is he's the father figure, and he is the one who actually is in front of the camera for these oh my gosh,
just documentaries, wildlife documentaries,
right? So I think it's great that Nigel and Marianne actually work together.
Yeah.
That Marianne is the camera operator and loader, and that Nigel is the on-air talent, and they work really well together. Yeah. Like, it's very, I mean, I'm sure that at some point there was probably in some episode somewhere there has to have been some type of a conflict between the two of them where they were just like, I don't want to work with you anymore, and they, you know, a little bit of a marriage tiff that they would have.
Maybe, but they seem like just like the perfect couple. Because like they're both comfortably independent, doing their own thing. Like if Nigel's sitting on the top of the Comvy in minus 15-degree weather, waiting for an egg to hatch, and Marianne's off in a karaoke bar somewhere, like they both exist in their own spheres just fine. And then when they come back together, they don't miss a beat, and they work together really well to pull off this to both pull off the documentaries in the wild and also raise this family of weirdos. So it's a really nice. They're also weird themselves. I think Marianne is probably the most normal out of all of them, maybe.
I don't know. I feel like she enjoys that. I feel like she enjoys being sort of around that kind of that different energy that's sort of counter to who she is as a person. Because she's able to, as we saw in this episode, kind of let loose and she's able to be weird and kind of forward and have fun as well. Yeah. And so, Marianne is voiced by Jodie Carlisle, and this is the best part. Yep. Nigel is voiced by Tim Curry.
It's great that he actually gets to voice like a positive character rather than a villain this time around. He actually, and he chews it up, man. Like his kind of British accent and his weird dad jokes and his weird like grunts and laughs that he has is 100% Tim Curry, and you can't replicate that at all. But it's amazing watching this.
My favorite thing is the Nigel character has been used over and over and over again in a bunch of memes that are on the internet for the catchphrase that he has, smashing. And so it'd be like smashing. And so it'd be like some character that would not be Nigel, and then it would turn around and it'd be Nigel's indistinguishable, like immediately identifiable face of just giant, like crooked, huge nose with this like little tiny black beady eyes, and it would just be him just going smashing, and you're just like, it gets me every damn time. I don't know why it's so funny, but it is.
It's great.
And I want it to exist.
It's great, and they're great, and their kids are not great. So, do you want to talk Eliza first of all?
Yeah.
She's like the main one you're going to follow throughout this whole thing. She's, not attractive. I'll say that. Like she's not drawn to be like a pretty girl. Like she's kind of got like an egg kind of head, and she's got these like braids. She's got braces and glasses. Like she's not drawn to be like a stereotypical. She's drawn in that Klasky Chupo manner, which is like a really weird animation style that is very specific to their house style. So they're not typically like attractive. Like if you look at all the Rugrats characters, they're not attractively drawn characters whatsoever. They're all weirdos, but they all kind of look like normal people.
Right. They sort of and I think the point that you're trying to make is that they resemble normal people. It's just that like the lines that they use are not always symmetrical.
No, not at all. I mean, that's one of the main things. There's a lot of lumpiness and a lot of crags and crevices and just kind of, yeah.
And so us as people, as we look at things, we quickly notice and distinguish a lot of that symmetry, but it becomes glaringly apparent when asymmetry is drawn into something, especially in the Klasky Chupo art style. And so, you think about Tommy Pickles with his head that looks like a crater.
Just looks like a dollop of mashed potatoes on a plate.
It's just been punched.
Yeah.
And so
punch those potatoes.
So you get a little bit of that with Eliza. She definitely has some of those distinguishable and classic features from this art style animation. And so, but I wouldn't say she's unattractive.
The fact that she's voiced by Lacey Chabert, however, though, is like,
what's up?
She was one of my earliest crushes back in the day, Party of Five style.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. What's up? What up, Lacey? If you're listening. That's all I got. I liked when you voiced.
Wait, hold on.
I like when you voiced a 12-year-old girl on Wild Thornberrys? Question mark.
This is your shot. Yikes. She is. I'm gonna tweet this episode at her. This is your opportunity to shine, Dave. And your comment is just, ooh, that's all I got.
That is true. Moving on to Darwin. So Darwin, if you hear us talking about him tonight, he's the chimp who travels with the family, right? He's voiced by Tom Kane, but what's interesting is that he only talks to Eliza because she can talk to animals. So he speaks and he's very well-spoken and he's very articulate and he's pretty smart about what's going on and he gives her kind of like life advice. But anytime she's talking with him, if the parents are around, they both have to kind of like cool it. Because nobody really knows that she has this power. I don't know why she hasn't shared it with people, but whatever. You think that would make their job a lot easier, actually, as wildlife journalists?
You honestly, you would think that would be something that, like, right out of the gate, and maybe she doesn't want the limelight in any way. And that's what I kept thinking to myself, is that maybe she wants to kind of set out on her own path. But at the same time, I feel like if you have the ability to speak to animals and you choose a discipline or a focus of study that relies so heavily on speaking with animals, but yet you don't leverage that skill and ability, it's really kind of a waste. And I mean, we'll get into that tonight for the episode.
Yeah, she uses it. She just doesn't tell anybody about it, which is strange. For the cartoon, it's fine because it has to add that little layer of tension. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, which you'll find yourself coming back to that theme over and over. I don't want to get too bogged down in the characters because we'll talk about them more in the episode itself. But if we mention Debbie, she is the eldest child of the Thornberrys, and she's kind of not interested in all this nature stuff. She's just kind of... She's a
little grunge. She's a little grunge.
She's got a grunge thing going on, and she's very kind of like rebellious, doesn't want to be around the family, but is like trapped there. So definitely angsty teenage girl. Yeah.
Constantly embarrassed by her parents.
I totally get that, and I think everybody else does too.
Yeah, no, that's insanely relatable.
Probably, and then finally, the most interesting member of the group. Go ahead.
Let's get into this. We've got Donnie, our feral boy.
His backstory is tragic, though.
Yeah. He was raised by orangutans in Borneo. His real parents were killed for interfering with poachers. I don't... Yeah. He could not be for such a tragic backstory. He is the pinnacle of smiles and excitement on this show. Nothing seems to bother him, and he is constantly enthusiastic. He's the kind of person that you're just like, I've had a bad day, and I just wanna be around somebody who's just gonna be positive and outgoing. And then that's Donnie.
See, I would say, like, I've had a bad day, I just want to go like relax. Oh no, there's a feral child that's been raised by orangutans and basically just throws his own crap around and makes a mess all the time and is always chittering and chattering and messing stuff up. I don't know that I would want to hang out with Donnie unless he's in his yoga meditation pose at the end of the day. He seems a little high strung. Okay. But super dark background. Thanks for that TV movie.
Yeah. Also, voiced by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
What? Okay, because Donnie doesn't really talk. He just kind of jabbers and chitters and like makes weird noises. That's really weird for me to think of Flea like in the booth making just weird noises for 91 episodes.
They were just like, hey, you've seen the Tasmanian Devil on a Merry Melodies cartoon. They're like, just freak out in the booth for a little bit, and then they let him go, and it was probably fantastic.
They probably just recorded the whole session over a weekend and then just reused his bits wherever they needed it for 90 episodes.
I can imagine Flea being like a really like, for all those like grunts and gurgles and crazy sounds and stuff like that. I can imagine them just being like, look, we're going to get like 2 solid hours of Flea freaking out with different emotions, and then we're just going to recycle that.
The weird thing was Anthony Kiedis actually came in to voice Nigel originally, but Tim Curry beat him to the role. That's not true at all. Moving on to the show itself tonight. Anything else from the characters or theme song there, bud?
Nah, let's get dangerous.
Gonna get into this.
Yep.
Where are we going? Like, I feel like Wild Thornberrys, it seems like something like tropical, like maybe on the savannah or like in a jungle somewhere, or maybe a desert. Where are we going tonight? Where's the adventure taking us?
Oh no, man. We're basically in the coldest of colds tonight. They're in the South Pole, right?
Yeah, Antarctic. Yeah, McMurdo.
They're in Antarctic.
Not the McMurdo, that was just a stutter on my part. The McMurdo Research Station in Antarctica.
I'm gonna swing on down to a McDonald's and get a McMurdo.
McMurdo, yeah.
McMurdo.
It's on the extra value meal. You can pick it up for $1. But no, this is a real place. I don't know if the
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. It's a real research station. I actually, a long time ago, back when I was still in college and was more stupid than I am now, was like, maybe I'll take my bio degree and go for like a 6-month sojourn down to McMurdo Research Station.
You're insane.
I never actually went through the application, but it sounded like something fun.
Knowing what I know about you, that would be a death wish
for everyone else there. Yeah, it would have been bad.
Everyone else.
I would have been fine. It would have been like the thing. It would have just the place.
That's exactly what I thought.
Down.
That's exactly what I could not hear them in that location, and then they were just like, "Oh, we're going to this science base," and I was like, "Oh my god! If there is a dog that is running towards camp and a helicopter following it with a guy riding like out the side of it trying to snipe it," I was like, "Get the fuck out of there! Get out of there immediately!" You were gonna get the Thinged so bad right now, and then 20 years later they're gonna make another The Thing, and it's gonna be the exact same story leading up to that dog running across a tundra.
Yeah,
you're gonna be like, was this necessary to make
Spoiler
it? You know
alert.
what? Absolutely,
and then
because it's a great movie.
And then in between those movies, there's a family of humans known as the Thornberrys who actually document the arrival of the Thing. It's a weird turn for this cartoon to take, but it got really bloody there at the end.
I was surprised when John Carpenter decided that he wanted to direct Nicktoons. I thought to myself, you know what? I'll allow it. This man has had a pretty storied career.
Yeah, and then Kurt Russell came in, voiced
a
character. It was a thing.
Yeah,
it was
weird that the character that he did, it was the Thing. Yeah. But it was weird that Russell came in and was just like, I only want to do Snake Plissken. But they were in the middle of the thing. Yeah, many things going on at once.
That's fine. And then he switched to like Big Trouble in Little China for some reason. But it was all pretty much the same character, so nobody really minded.
The fact that there was just that kung fu guy just singing karaoke at one point during this, I was like, I didn't quite get it.
Well, then
I
was
excited.
Then he just sat in the corner and was like playing with his wispy beard the entire time, so it was all right.
Well, it was that. It was followed by the fact that he was like, ugh, and then he throws a knife at somebody and they grab it and they throw it right back in his forehead, and you were just like, well, you know what? This isn't the traditional Nicktoon that I thought of.
No, and then Eddie Murphy showed up looking for the golden child, and that just complicated things even more.
This is just, and then
this is the part of the show where Sean and Dave write their own recap of an episode. One that we actually want to see. Okay, so none of that actually happened. What are we doing down here at McMurdo Research Station?
Oh man, we are checking out penguins. Yeah. We are checking out penguins. And for this episode, which is called "Look Who's Squawking," we're down in the Antarctic. And the idea is that they have these penguins that are about to give birth, and so really harsh conditions.
Technically, it's like the emperor penguins that carry their eggs on their feet. So it's off the ice. They carry them on their feet, which you probably saw in March of the Penguins or any of the penguin documentaries, all of which were narrated by Morgan Freeman. So they carry them on their feet to keep them off the ice, and they also have like this little like belly pouch fold thingy that keeps them protected and insulated from the cold. But they work in pairs. The male and female penguins work in pairs. So one will be, I think it's usually the male will like kind of walk with the penguins and incubate the egg, while the female goes off and is in search of food for the both of them. So she has to go out, get food, bring it back, and then keep doing that back and forth. And that plays into the plot of this episode, which I thought was kind of cool. They actually did like a pseudo-scientific lesson for kids.
That's so adorable.
So
I like the fact again you have Nigel and you have Marianne working together, and then you've got these male and female penguins working
and then
together.
You got Eliza fucking up everything in between. Is the moral of this story.
We're introduced to Eliza kind of, and she's going through the motions of saying that she really wants to be a vet.
Yeah, and you can tell because she's dressed head to toe like a vet.
Yeah, and she's taking care of Darwin as if he actually has some major life-threatening problem.
Which he does not.
It feels like the intro for this, that the stakes are really high, that like Darwin's life hangs in the balance.
Yeah, I thought we missed something on like a previous episode, like he'd been run over by like a herd of elephants or something, because he is pretty much head to toe in like casts, and he's in traction, and he's got like wraps all over him, and yeah. So turns out absolutely nothing. No, he's totally fine. She's just playing vet, which is weird.
Totally.
But it's setting up everything else that kind of happens in this episode. This was, by the way, the highest rated, tied with another one, but the highest rated episode on IMDb. So we went with this one.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, they got their work cut out for them. I feel like there's better episodes out there, but this was okay. Okay. Hey, you know what, man? It's probably super cold down in Antarctica. How cold do you think it is?
Dude, it's a nippy -15. And you know how I know?
How do you know?
Because like I can walk outside and I could throw a cup of coffee and it polar vortexes itself in that instance.
What's funny is I actually looked up how cold it would have to be for that to happen. It would probably have to be -40 degrees. Fun fact, it doesn't matter if you're measuring in Celsius or Fahrenheit because -40 is the same in both scales. However, -15, I don't know which one he's talking about. So it would have to be a little colder than he said it was for that hot tea, that boiling hot tea to freeze instantly. But we'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. That's not too bad. This isn't Science Corner Saturday morning cartoons, so we're all right now.
Here's a fun thing that you can do.
Yeah.
You can lock yourself in a walk-in freezer and lower it down to -15 and try the trick.
Yeah.
And then have your friend on the outside lower it down to -40, give you another cup of tea, and give it a shot, and then report back.
And then call the paramedics because you're probably in stage 3 hypothermia by this point. But it's all good.
Oh, man. Sandal season's not going to look good for you this year.
Nope, not when you lose all your toes to frostbite.
All the toes.
Moving on. There was actually some near-death experiences in this cartoon, which I did not expect on both the penguin side and the human side. So, okay. So they're chronicling the hatching of all these penguins' eggs at this point. That's why they're there in the Antarctic. Eliza is practicing her vet skills. Debbie is being a bitch. And that's about it. That's about where we're at. Right? So what I want to do is I want to kind of break this down into, there's 3 different mini plots that happen. So the first one is Nigel kind of hangs out and keeps an eye on the penguins. And basically at some point, Donnie ends up with him and they both have like a stakeout where they just watch the penguins. So let's hit that first and then we'll move to the next ones.
All right.
So basically Nigel's just kind of like hanging out on the convy watching these penguins and like making comments every once in a while. But once Donnie shows up and is kind of like seated next to him, it's this cute kind of father-son, father kidnapped, illegitimate child relationship where he's just like, the secret to
it's Stockholm syndrome, Dave. Let's just name the syndrome and let's just move on with it.
Who's the one suffering from it? Because it feels like Nigel kind of was, because they can't get rid of Donnie.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We've all thought one way. We thought that the kidnapping happened because they kidnapped Donnie. No. Donnie kidnapped a family. Yeah. This is how in your brain these Nicktoons get when they're able to flip the script on you and just be like, haha, you've been Stockholm.
That's right, by Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So there's kind of a cute moment, father-son moment between the two. Nigel's very chill. He's just watching the penguins. He's very relaxed. And he tells Donnie like the first step to being a great documentarian is patience and quieting yourself and just watching the story kind of unfold. Well, at this point, like, Donnie's just trying to hold it together, but then he starts fidgeting and freaking out. And every time they come back to them, he keeps freaking out. At some point, Nigel's just like, well, all right, you're just a kid. I really can't get mad at you. And then, how does Donnie eventually learn to handle his ridiculous fidgeting?
He meditates. He sort of, he gets this very zen-like look. Now, I'll say this. I can relate to Donnie in sort of like his kind of crazy spastic energy. I will sometimes have like a very hard time, not just concentrating, but just sort of relaxing. Yes. I have the worst time being able to relax. it takes a certain degree of just allowing myself to let go in order to relax and just kind of chill. Sometimes it just does not come naturally to me. So like I can relate. I can get what they're going with in here. I will say this though, watching him sort of going through that Zen meditation, I'll say this: when I do yoga and when I'm done doing it, it's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
No,
but
it's
it's
good stuff.
reversed. I'm Mr. Hyde ahead of time, and then it's Dr. Jekyll.
Oh, I have the other way. I'm like super chill ahead of time, but then I do yoga and I just like punch through walls because I'm just feeling like so jacked up, full of yogi energy. No, same thing.
Like never to come back.
Yeah, I've gone to multiple different yoga studios and they will not let me back.
I'm just doing yoga in the park now, and I'm just knocking over trees.
Yeah, just running through them like the Hulk. No, for me, it's like I can't. This is probably TMI, but like I can't. All day I'm tired, and then when I try to fall asleep, that's when my mind and body's just like, okay, time to get up and do stuff. So I don't know where the hell that happened, but I have to do like a take 10 or whatever they call it, yoga. Not even yoga, just meditation thing. Just a 10-minute quieting, and then I can fall asleep a little more easily. But that's so I mean, it's a cool little in joke here. Flea was probably into all kinds of alternative medicines and stuff. Who knows? But it's kind of just like a cute little joke. They also scatter a number of like dad jokes. Doesn't matter who says them, they're all dad jokes throughout the episode. One of them is when Marion throws her cup of tea out into the snow. Do you know what Debbie says? You remember what she says?
I missed this. What did she say?
She goes, talk about your iced tea. Golly. Nobody was talking about iced tea. It's not a funny joke, Debbie. But speaking of Debbie, do you have anything left to say about Nigel and Donnie before we move on to the ladies?
No, let's get into the ladies.
Let's get into the ladies' night. So
let's get into we've got Debbie, we've got Marianne, and we've got,
and they're headed back to the station. So they leave their dad and they leave Nigel out and they go back to the station. Yeah.
But we're meeting boring Mr. Science guy.
Boring Mr. Science escort guy. Meh. I love that Debbie was at first excited to like get back to the station. Like she sees it and she's like, "Ooh, military barracks!" And I was like, "You need to put that girl on a leash because she gonna go wild. She gonna go wild. Settle. This girl, all right, wild. You gotta lock her down because she's like, ooh, military barracks."
What happens in these instances, Dave? What are you alluding to?
I don't know.
She going wild.
She going wild.
What's going?
I've seen videos.
Okay.
I've seen them.
I've seen women gone wild.
I've seen cartoon women gone wild.
Whoa,
Yikes. Whoa! You can order that on our shop page. Anyway, so she's excited to get to the station, basically because they walk this weird line of sexuality here, where she's excited because at first she says military barracks, and her mom's like, "Why are you so excited about that?" And then Debbie says, because it's not the Comv, it's I get to get out of that stanky vehicle, I get to get away from you guys, and I get to go hang out with other people in a different environment. But then when they get there, it's basically just like a stripped down cabin. Like there's not much to it at all. They don't even have a TV. There's not much to it at all. And then on top of that, they have to wait for this stupid, boring, nerdy science guy to show up and escort them around the place. So Debbie's super not thrilled.
Guess what?
What, buddy?
Boring Mr. Science escort guy pulls off mask, flips long hair back. What's up, everybody? How you doing?
Oh, turns out it's a woman. Yeah, it's super hot German science intern Lisa Soderblom. I'm Lisa Soderblom. I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Is it just me, or is Debbie super into Lisa?
Yeah, she's super into.
What did you think I was gonna say?
I have no idea. I was just.
Oh, you just automatically agree.
That's what I thought it was.
I'm gonna remember that next time. No matter what I'm gonna say, Sean's gonna agree.
Oh no.
No, Debbie was super into Lisa. Like, she's like, when she shows up, she's just like automatically smitten with her. She's like super pressed up against her, and then when her mom decides to come with them, she's just like, "Mom," which is like a typical teenage thing, but also kind of like, what? Like she wanted to just spend time with this random German science lady that just showed up because she promised her like live music and to night out on the town. It was just like a weird experimental stage. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I think for as much as Debbie feels kind of very claustrophobic around, not in a sense of that the area of the space that she's in is very small, but I mean she's in a very cramped environment with her family. A lot of crazy people. Yeah. A lot of with 2 kidnappees that have Stockholm syndrome, and a family of one of which has a secret power that for some reason, unbeknownst to everybody else, decides not to share it with everybody. And documentary parents, and she's feeling a little bit lost. She's feeling like she doesn't really have a friend in the world that she can really talk to.
And I get that.
And I think that the same thing. I think the same thing for Marianne. I think that she's sort of like, you know what, I know that you are a young woman and you're coming into your own, but I'm also in this convy with you. I'm also in this cramped space, and I have Stockholm Syndrome with an Aboriginal child that we kidnapped that we now have Stockholm Syndrome with, and a monkey that seems to talk to my daughter and spend way too much time with her. Also, it's a monkey that hasn't ripped off anybody's fucking face yet.
And he wears overalls, which is adorable.
Right. And like a blue and a white striped t-shirt. He looks like
He's
a little sailor
monkey.
He's a little sailor
Who doesn't
monkey.
love that? But
Who
I'm
doesn't
tired
love
of it.
that?
I need to go get some strange, is what Marianne says. She Jekyll and Hyde's. She does have a moment, though, where she's kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to go to karaoke. Oh, hell yeah, I'm going to the karaoke bar. She wants to go have a girls' night out. So for Debbie, that's not great. Lisa's all about it because she's German. She's into all three, whatever you're going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it talks the point that you made earlier, Dave, was the fact that, Marianne and Nigel are strong together, but individually they have their own interests and they're strong apart. They can go and they can do things.
You
and
could
so
even win Queen of Karaoke awards if you want.
Oh man, let's get into this Queen of Karaoke thing. So German scientist, name inserted by Dave.
Lisa Soderblom.
So Lisa Soderblom takes them to this karaoke, and so she promised them live music. Turns out it's not really live music per se. It turns out it is live music that is performed by you via karaoke.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love karaoke?
Exactly.
So, Dave, what is your go-to karaoke song?
My
that you
go-to karaoke song is whatever Marion sang at this time and space. Because I even looked up her lyrics. I was just like, this is not a song. This is not a thing that exists. They could not have gotten the rights to any. I don't know. What would I've done Ants Marching, and then I found out too late. I found out way too late that the end of it is super high, and I cannot sing that high. What else have I done? Oh, I got.
Oh, so you've entered into every pitfall that anybody else who's ever sang karaoke.
Anybody who doesn't take it seriously and thinks that you can just walk up on stage and do it, and then you look like an idiot. I got kicked out of Garage Door, which was a bar in Pittsburgh, for a drunken rendition of Turn the Page, but it was not it was the Bob Seger version that was playing, but three of us sang the Metallica version. And we were way drunker than the audience, so they literally just tossed us out the side door because it was that atrocious. But we had a hell of a good time. I don't know. I don't do it very often. Maybe maybe some tonic. Maybe some tonic up there. If you could only see. How about you, buddy?
Oh man, Alanis Morissette, you ought to know.
That's your go-to.
That's my go-to. That or Harvey Danger, Flagpole Sitta.
That's a good one. I feel like you should just always go with a live song, like from the band live, because there's nothing that could possibly go
Lightning
wrong.
Crashes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Lightning Crashes would be a good one. I think the problem is that my vocal range, that is like the sweet spot for that, is like mid to late 90s female alt rock.
Oh, okay,
for some
that's
reason.
specific.
And so like Alanis Morissette and like Four Non Blondes for some reason
interesting.
falls right into that sweet spot, and I don't know why.
But hey, if you ever want to sing the lyrics, her placenta falls to the floor, then definitely pick live Lightning Crashes. Marion chose not to sing that song for this particular episode. She just kind of made one up on the spot, but apparently we're supposed to believe that it was something she sang when she was dating Nigel back in the day.
Right. It almost for 2 seconds it started. It gave a feeling, or it gave me the sense that it was "I Will Survive" by Aretha Franklin.
It had that vibe to it, but it was not that song whatsoever.
No, this is not. No,
it's a made-up song that has elements of every other song from like maybe the 80s and the late 70s. Because I listened to it twice and I looked up the lyrics, and that does not exist.
Yep. So I mean, but good on her for being just kind of like, I'm doing this. I'm in.
And good on the writers for coming up with a hit karaoke song.
Yeah,
sure.
And so and that's that song is the song that is gonna win you Queen of Karaoke, a #1 mom medal as well, and it's also gonna give your daughter a runner-up for most embarrassed daughter of the year.
That's true. It really did. It also gives you an opportunity for another dad joke. This time spoke by the MC of the proceedings. Do you remember this one?
No, I think I had the last dad joke.
Okay, that's
that
good.
was
We'll give
in
you
this,
that
but
one.
What was
His last one was a real humdinger. This was, hello, everybody. I'm your MC, which stands for
Yes.
Master of Croaking. Yuck, yuck. And he actually says yuck, yuck. It's not like
Yuck,
a laugh
yuck.
fill-in. He says yuck, yuck. And he looked like a weird mix of like Nigel and like, oh God, what's his name? Damn it.
Zach Morris.
Sure, Zach Morris. Let's go with that. I was going to say Liberace, but the name did not come to me.
Liberace.
He was in like rhinestones and like a weird tuxedo thing.
He had like pink pants and a white shirt and then like a blue kind of like studded
Liberace.
coat over top. Yeah, Liberace. Sure.
Okay, so those are our two kind of side plots in this thing. Now we can get to the main stuff, which of course they all interact at different points within the story, especially once they all wrap up at the end. But mostly we're focused on Eliza, Darwin, and a bunch of penguins.
Right.
Yeah. So
we have
go ahead.
Penguins named Kua and Micah.
Now let me ask you this: you're a 12-year-old girl. All right.
No, hold on. Let me get into that mindset.
Yeah, put your 12-year-old voice on. 12-year-old girl voice on.
I'm there.
That's even creepier than if you would have just spoken normally.
I know. That's why I don't.
Let's go with that
Look,
one.
I told you, mid '90s, late '90s, female alt rock.
It's not good, Eliza. All right, you're a 12-year-old and you want to be a vet, right?
All right.
So presumably you know something about animals. So what's your first instinct when you look at a penguin?
Probably has problems with it.
He's like, everything about it is wrong.
Hold on. Let me assess the situation. Yeah. Is the penguin like? What state is the penguin?
They're walking. They're not laying on their side gasping for air just yet. They're just walking.
He's just walking.
But they're walking.
There's probably problems abound.
They're walking funny apparently.
Oh, oof.
I love that. That's her first instinct. It's like, oh, they're walking.
You got to investigate.
Like they're fucking penguins.
Yeah.
That's how they walk.
I like that the two of us, we are not vets, nor do we have any experience with penguins. But if I was to see a penguin, nothing distinguishable about how the way a penguin waddles would make me say, oh yeah, there's probably something screwed up with his locomotion. I'd be like, oh no, it's a penguin. No. I don't care.
Yeah. I'm a vet. That's just how penguins walk. Now, I don't know. Yeah. So whatever reason, Eliza decides that she wants to go treat this penguin. Well, Darwin has to keep like pulling her back and just be like, no, it's a penguin. There's nothing wrong with them. Stop trying to like get and meddle with everything. Just leave it alone.
So let's put this up there because this is the first time that she causes problems for herself that are unnecessary. All right. So this is strike number 1 against you, Eliza. Yep. So, and Lacey Chabert, if you're listening,
you killed it,
we know
girl.
It's not you. You did every amazing job with what you were doing. This is just
and continue to do. She actually
so beautifully.
She actually has a lot of voice acting work out there. She's been doing that for a while.
Dave, please don't interrupt me. I'm talking to Lacey right now.
I know. So am I. Lacey, what's up?
So,
what up, girl?
Come on. You had your chance.
Up,
you had your chance, and you shit the bed on this one, buddy. So it's Sean time now. You got to give this to me, all right? Sean time.
Lacey, just hit me up at Dr. Claw
Chabert.
MD. Don't even worry about it. Just at Dr. Claw MD on Twitter. You know that Twitter, girl.
Oh my god. I really hope this is the way it's like, that you've spoken to women before.
I've spoken to one woman through this podcast. It's taken 135 episodes. Speaking to her from the future.
Penguins walking weird. Yep. Cause for alarm. Yep. What would you do if a penguin was walking weird?
Punch it.
Why would you
just set it straight.
Damn it. What, like on its stomach?
Yeah, let it slide like a spirit animal.
Yeah. The second, thank you, because the second Darwin says slide, I got such a fight cloud. I was like, oh my god, if this turns into either a Goo Goo Dolls song or a Fight Club
or a spirit
like, dream
cave
sequence thing, where a Helena Bonham Carter is just like slide.
See, but here
I would have been like, the fuck is going on?
But at this point, there was like a moment where it was like, oh, cool, this is going to be a fun episode because Darwin and Donnie are like sledding and sliding with the other like baby penguins. And it's like super cute. They're just sliding down this little hill. They're sliding on their bellies. Donnie and Darwin slide on a sled. And then they're like, Eliza, it's super cold out here, but this is a lot of fun. She's like, no, I want to go fix sick penguins, even though there really aren't any to be found. So yeah, eventually when they're going to head back to the research station, they find one that is just like laying down. It's exhausted. It can barely speak. Now remember that Eliza can speak to them, sort of. So what happens in this interaction here?
So in this interaction, the entire time I'm thinking to myself, like, why isn't Eliza just having a conversation with the penguin. The penguin finally says something, and it just goes, "Lost baby," and you're like, "Oh."
Well, she
no.
even like spaces it out more because she goes, "Lost baby."
B.
So Eliza is so impatient that she's like, "Oh, you got lost at the bay? Let's wrap you up and take you back to the station." Just like, huh? What? The penguin's fine. It's probably just tired. You know, wrap it up.
Yeah.
So I love the next interaction that happens because like Marco, the super cool snowmobile driver, he show up. He's like, "Marco, hey, I'm a Marco. You have a supplies you need me to pick up and take on my snowmobile?" Marco.
I have to say that this was probably like the coolest thing. I guess maybe if I was in middle school and somebody had like came to me and they were 1, driving a snowmobile, and 2, had a foreign accent,
And their name was
like,
Marco.
"Oh my." I'd be like, "What the hell is going on here? You're clearly the coolest person in the world."
Marco, if you're listening, at Dr. Claw MD on Twitter, hit me up.
Oh my God. Would you?
What up, bro?
Jesus.
What up?
130 something episodes for this to finally come
Well,
out. I'm glad that we were able to do
I'm an equal opportunity offender, or whatever the word is.
I think dater.
That works.
Everybody's just trying to swipe right on everybody on the show.
I still have no idea which direction it's supposed to go. I've never used one of those stupid things.
Don't worry.
But regardless, speaking about poor decisions, Eliza makes yet another poor decision. She swaddles up this hurt penguin, not knowing anything about it, except she thought that it got lost in a bay. She swaddles it up in this blanket. Marco thinks it's supplies, so he just dumps it on the back of the snowmobile.
Just dumps it.
And then Eliza and Darwin hop on the back of this snowmobile with him, meanwhile leaving Donnie just like out in the snow, surrounded by baby penguins. He's totally fine. Right. He ends up with his dad later, as we talked about, but...
Right. But it's still one of those things that it comes back to once they get back to the actual science station,
right,
where she has this kind of mother-daughter moment with Marianne where she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was really concerned about the penguin." And she's like, "Oh, don't worry. It's fine. Donnie's back with your dad." And you realize in that moment, you're just like, oh, there were very little
There's no repercussions whatsoever
to what her actions. Like, okay, fine. This is not the first time that this happens either, so it's not that big of a deal. But
yeah, so that happens later. Here's where I was like, Eliza is the weirdest protagonist ever, though, because she makes her own problems through her own mistakes, which is acceptable. Kids make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and then you learn from them. That's great. That's good storytelling. However, her lies and just straight up poor decisions create more problems throughout. So it's not like an external force is acting upon the hero and causing problems for them to overcome. She's making her own problems through terrible decisions and straight up lying to her parents. So I really have a hard time feeling like sympathetic for her, and I feel more frustrated and irritated with her because she's making her own problems. And I don't know if that's just like a different style of writing, if it's not great writing, or if it's just what they wanted this character to be, but it irritated me.
I mean, I don't have an answer to that. I wish I did. I don't feel like it's poor writing. I feel like it was one of those things that, kids lie, and kids have communication problems, and a 12-year-old I don't think has all of these things, regardless of how many animals they can speak to. I just don't think that they have these things sorted out. So for Eliza, it was just, she's her own worst enemy. She is the antagonist and protagonist of this episode. You calling something else out?
There's another antagonist. We soon meet the world's bitchiest scientist for no apparent reason.
And she's a vet, and she's an actual vet.
She's a vet. She's working at an aquarium. I don't know. She never really says. She's just kind of like a lady in a coat that's a real bitch.
Right.
So Eliza brings this penguin in, and the first thing we see is like Eliza standing at the table, the penguin on the table, and this lady standing over it. And she's like, first of all, we can't even have penguins in here. Second of all, this is an aquarium. No children are allowed. Which, also, when you hear the word aquarium, I automatically associate fish and children. I don't know why, but it's like aquariums seem like something that kids should either own and take care of or go visit at least once a year. But what do I know?
I don't know. I wanted to pump the brakes on that conversation so hard because I was like, you are in the Antarctic. Yeah. There are penguins. There are emperor penguins all around. You work at an aquarium that has fish and other animals and wildlife. that's indigenous to this area. What do you mean you can't have fucking penguins here?
I love that they even have a booth. They have a makeshift like a penguin enclosure ready for it.
What the fuck is this?
It's a one
fucking
penguin.
liar.
That's where our tax dollars are going, to unused penguin
Jesus.
enclosures at McMurdo Research Station. Write your congressman. This is a shambles.
Remember, it's McMurdo.
McMurdo.
So just whenever you write your letter,
directly to them.
McMurdo.
On the dollar menu. So, I don't know. It was just a really strange thing for that scientist to just be like, straight up bitch. Like, she was the entire episode. There was never a time where she was just like, oh man, I'm glad you brought that penguin in, and she's super fine now, but she would have died without you, so thanks for the good job. No, she's just like, why are you here? Why is there a dirty chimpanzee in here? So she's also a racist and a speciesist. So I don't know. She's terrible.
I feel like the larger backstory was that this vet came down after like a breakup with like a fiance.
With Marco.
She was left at the altar. She was left. Marco broke up with her.
Marco.
And they thought that they were going to get
together
sent.
at McMurdo. There's nowhere to go.
Marco leaves her at the altar. Yeah. They thought that they were going to be at separate research stations.
This was your summer at the Antarctic. I thought you were going to the Arctic. Oh no, Marco.
I brought only my swimsuit and this small Speedo that's down here. Oh, my name is Marco.
This small Speedo.
Yeah, we know.
I would love to stay and chat with you, but I have to meet German scientist Lisa Soderblom for karaoke and supplies. Okay, ciao.
Ciao, Bella.
He never says that, but he super should have said ciao. Come on, Marco, get it together.
So, the whole idea about the next part of Eliza's story is her running errands back and forth between the penguins and their emperor penguin population, and then back to the penguin that's now in this aquarium
in the specially made enclosure. Yeah,
in this penguin enclosure, and it's just her going back and forth having communications issues, and that's it.
Basically like putting out small fires that she created through her lies and terrible decision making. That really kind of culminates, like, we go back and forth. She drops Darwin off and leaves him in the middle of the Arctic to stand. He's a chimpanzee. Remember this. In a winter coat. Also, right? Yeah, good.
She fucking fat shames the hell out of him.
But it was hilarious. It's the only time this entire episode that I laughed. Right? So she had to go talk to the other penguin who needed to go get food. So Darwin had to keep the egg on his feet. And then his feet weren't warm enough and his winter jacket wasn't warm enough. So what did he need to do?
He needed to put his belly fold.
Old belly fold. I don't have a belly fold.
His stomach fold is what she calls it.
She's like,
I don't have a stomach.
She's like, stop sucking it in. This is important. And he's like, ugh. And
then he just kind of sighs and just lets that gut out over time.
It was the only time I laughed this entire time. So as they're shuttling these things back and forth, and Eliza goes back and goes to get the other penguin out of captivity at this point, because she realizes, oops, I fucked up. I imprisoned this penguin against her will. She was just trying to get food for her family. Yeah. And she takes it back in the snowmobile, which she promptly crashes.
Dude, in that wreck, I was like, oh man, they're going to find a dead female emperor penguin and a dead 12-year-old girl in this snowdrift.
It would have been great if they found like a half-eaten corpse of emperor penguin and then just Eliza, just like blood and blubber on her face.
But like frozen in like a solid block of ice, looking like
out of The Shining.
Like
cartoons for kids. But no, we come close. They now have to walk what seems like it's only 50 feet to the emperor penguin group.
At certain points when they pan, you can see the penguins in front of them. There, guys. She's like, it's so cold.
The emperor penguin, she's like, I am made for this. She just waddles out in front of him. She's like, stay behind me. Eliza takes 2 steps and she's like, I'm just going to lay down and die here because it's really cold.
All right. You know what? I can't obviously envision this as a 12-year-old girl, but as having been previously a 12-year-old boy, I can totally say that there are moments in your life when you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to lay here, curl up in a ball and act like
I had
I'm like, I can relate to this. I can 100% relate to what she's going through. I'm not even in the cold. I was under a blanket and I'm just like, I wish I was dead right now.
I had 2 moments that I can distinctly remember when I was a little kid, younger than her, probably like maybe 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there, where I was in my winter clothes. I had to walk a longer way to get to the bus because snow was so bad that it forced them to take like the main roads and not the side streets and stuff. And I remember walking like halfway there and getting so cold that I just like stopped and sat down in a snowdrift. And like older students and adults were walking by me and they were just like, "You okay, kid?" And I just kind of nodded and they were like, "Well, okay, everything seems fine here." And they just kept walking. So at some point, I think I survived.
We never saw Dave Trumbo again.
I either survived or this has been 30 years of a fever dream. And another time I was actually one of those kids who like was making an igloo snow tunnel thing and the whole thing collapsed on me.
Oh no!
Yeah,
shit.
I just dug out because it was just like it was fairly light powder snow and it wasn't super deep.
Okay.
But yeah, so 2 times where I basically felt like Eliza wanting to just lay down and die in the Arctic. But I did not have a penguin to nuzzle me back into consciousness, which she had. Little brat.
Let me ask, if you were a penguin and you had and this 12-year-old girl had been fucking with you this entire time, wouldn't you take your little flipper and just kind of like fucking just slap, flipper slap?
I just walked. Because I'd have been like, you know what? I'm just a penguin. I'm gonna do penguin things, like make sure that my baby's fine.
Like I'm gonna slide away from this murder. I'm gonna slide away from this CSI
scene. I'm gonna slide away from this corpsicle in process who has kidnapped me and endangered the life of my family and left a rabid chimp watching over my brood. So since this is a Nicktoon, everything turns out fine. The weirdest part is that Eliza suffers like no punishment whatsoever for let's keep track here, lying multiple times to her parents, basically breaking into a government research facility multiple
stealing
times,
a snowmobile,
kidnapping a penguin, crashing that snowmobile.
I love when super sexy suave Marco, he's like, "Oh hello, this might be a bad time, but I noticed that my snowmobile is crashed into disrepair. Is Eliza okay?"
And they're just like, "Oh yeah, I'm really sorry, guys. I forgot to tell you that I stole a snowmobile." And Marco's like, "Oh no, don't worry. It's okay. Goodbye."
Oh, it's okay. Goodbye. I go back into the snowstorm now.
As quickly as he enters in, I'm like, "A, how did you get here? B, how are you getting that snowmobile
I just walked
back,
34
Marco?
miles through the snow to get here. It's fine. I take a broken snowmobile back. Ciao.
Don't worry, I am a part penguin, but ciao,
Don't
Bella."
worry, I have supplies.
So stupid. Okay, what was Eliza's actual punishment? So like the egg hatched, they got it on camera for literally 5 seconds before they packed it up and went back into the caravan. What was Eliza's punishment for basically being the worst human?
Her entire punishment for all of this, for creating all these problems over 22 minutes of this episode, is that for the next 5 stops in the convey, she has to clean the convey. That's the punishment.
Does not seem steep. Unless she's cleaning out like the septic tank. That's a little gnarly.
Probably.
Yeah, but other than that, it's not that bad. I do like that they showed like Donnie spilling his coffee and Darwin spilling his coffee as like that was supposed to be like, oh, it's gonna be a messy trip.
Well, I mean, I thought it was actually hot cocoa.
Either one, yeah.
Because Donnie spills it onto his plate and then lifts his plate up to his mouth and just kind of slurps the whole thing back. I'm just like, oh, that's pretty genius.
It was cute.
Like,
they had cute little moments like that for Donnie because he doesn't really get any dialogue, so he just has cute side moments. Like he'll be playing with the penguins or whatever.
Do we get this last
You got it, buddy. This is all you.
joke towards the end? We get this moment where sort of all of the storylines are kind of coming and coalescing at the very end of the episode. And we get this moment where Nigel finds out that Marianne has won this karaoke queen award. And he goes, well, you know, her singing has always been pretty karaoke with me.
But it's fine because it's Tim Curry.
Yeah, I know. I'll pretty much listen and watch anything Tim Curry's in. So it doesn't
Tim
matter.
Curry, if you're listening, at Sean Paul Ellis on Twitter.
Oh my God. Just want to talk about that movie Legend that you were in when you were the devil. That's all I want to talk about.
You had a giant cod piece that was terrifying.
That makeup was amazing. Let's get into that.
The cod piece actually wasn't makeup. That was just all Tim Curry.
Fuck. You know what? That's why he's a treasure.
Yeah, that's why. Because he got that devil cod piece. That's what he's known for.
Man is a treasure.
All right, anything else from this episode before we move on to Love It or Hate It?
No, let's get into it.
All right, so we are going to reveal our takes and opinions on this particular episode of the Wild Thornberrys, but there are other folks out there who loved it or hated it. Sean, which one do you want to take, love or hate tonight?
I'm gonna take love.
Take some love. What do we got?
So this is from Vitani Girl.
Where's she from?
I love it. I don't know who allows them to do this. Is just crazy. It says, from I'm proud to be an American with 2 exclamation points, which, all right. It says, a cause for applause. The Wild Thornberrys is a cause for applause, folks. Anyone who doesn't like it must have mistaken the show for something or for some other thing, because I can't understand why anyone would dislike this sweet, educational, fun, family-friendly show about a lovable 12-year-old kid with the gift of gab, in air quotes. What I mean by this is that Eliza can talk to animals. And don't you wish you could too? I do. It's my favorite show, with rocket power in close second and As Told by Ginger in third. Other than that, I don't watch too much TV. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Yeah, you're really fucking going off on a tangent on this one. She gave this 10 out of 10 stars. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Gift of gab,
loved
a cause
it.
for applause. All right, she loved it, but Sir Freeman from Estonia apparently hated it. 2 out of 10 stars. This is relatively recent. It's from 2010. There's no reason to be posting a review of a show that went off the air in 2007. Anyway, here we go. Sir Freeman. Nickelodeon has a lot of great shows, which they tend to cancel for no apparent reason. Like Hey Arnold, As Told by Ginger, SpongeBob, Danny Phantom, Kappa Mikey, but sadly this one just isn't up to par. I first saw the show in 2001, and even back then, as a kid, I disliked it. One of the biggest problems and what really kills this show is character development. Whenever a character develops in an episode, all the progress is forgotten once you get to the next one. Also, Eliza's completely arrogant, and probably more than half of the situations she gets into wouldn't even occur if the little brat would have bothered to let the person/animal complete their sentence. This point alone makes the show extremely unbearable. End of rant. Also, I would like to add that the person responsible for rocket power should be fired. So I think Sir Freeman actually makes a lot of good points as far as Eliza, as far as your main character. I also like to include both of these reviews because they mentioned rocket power and As Told by Ginger, which may or may not be coming up later this month. But before we get to the upcoming schedule, Sean, buddy, do you recommend the Wild Thornberrys? And if not, does it get the dip, which means it's erased from existence from all time?
You know, I'm going to agree with you with the fact that in this, and I guess this is with some of our third-party reviews as well, Eliza is her own worst enemy. And, you know, from episode to episode, it doesn't seem like there is a ton of carryover in this. But you know what? I would still recommend this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Even as this being the highest rated episode tied on IMDb, I still really enjoyed it.
Okay, cool. I was a little disappointed in this one. I remember liking it as, I think my brother was watching these more at this time. I was kind of in like the high school years at this point. I don't think I was really watching too many Nicktoons. But I watched it with him, and I remembered liking the idea of the Wild Thornberrys because it was sort of it was a different take. They had a full episode to tell a story, so they could get a little deeper into some things. They did the wildlife stories, they did pseudoscience tales, and I thought the little extra magical twist was interesting. I just remember it being better than this particular episode. So I'll say check it out. Seek it out. Start at the beginning. This was like deep into season 5, so maybe it was a little fresher earlier on, and maybe they stopped caring as much later on. I know that Klasky and Chupo were not as involved with the writing process after that first season, or even the first half of the first season. I think they only did about 10 episodes or so. I think, unless I might be getting my series confused, so don't hold me to that one.
Probably. They were probably like, we got to go back and redo Rugrats and put them in middle school or high school.
No, we've got to do the crossover where the Rugrats meet the Wild Thornberrys called Rugrats Go Wild. So yeah, I would, it's a weak recommendation, but just to complete your Nicktoons watching, go check out some early episodes of Wild Thornberrys. I remember liking it as a kid-ish teenager, so it's got to be better than this. It is my ringing endorsement. Probably better than Penguins.
Sold me on this.
Yikes. All right, buddy. What do you have coming up in the next couple of weeks for the listeners out there?
Man, if you are in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area and you're interested in watching some live improv comedy, I do live improv comedy with Washington Improv Theater. You can find more information and tickets with witdc.org. And as always, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Sean Paul Ellis.
Fantastic. You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find me on collider.com and nerdist.com and davetrumbore.com. If you're interested in finding out more about the show, you can do so at our Patreon page. In case you missed the ad at the beginning of this particular show, yes, we do have a Patreon account up and running, and we are taking donations so we can, get better equipment for this show and pay off some of the behind-the-scenes expenses, and also just to bring you guys more content and a better show overall. We've been doing this for what's coming up on 3 years in a few months, 3 years now. It's all out of Sean and my pocket, and we love doing it, and we have a blast doing it. We just want to make it better. And the only way we can do that is to have a little bit of capital to play with. So even if you guys can't make a donation on our patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons page, just please feel free to share the word, spread the word, and let folks know that you love the show. You can also find us on SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Remember, that's morning with a U. Find us on Twitter at MorningToons. Check out Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page. Keep the conversation going on Facebook. Watch videos weekly on YouTube, and you can listen to us each and every week for free through iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. As always, you can send us your suggestions, which we'll actually be getting to a number of listener suggestions coming up in February. That's a little tease for the schedule ahead. But as always, you can send us an email to suggest them, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. Speaking of what's coming up in the weeks ahead, what's going on with these Nicktoons, man? What's up next?
Man, so next up, and we have Rocket Power.
Sorry, Sir Freeman. It's time for Rocket Power.
Time for Rocket Power. We have As Told by Ginger, and then we are closing out our third New Year's Nicktoons with Invader Zim.
Those last two I haven't seen. Rocket Power I remember, but those last two I have not seen.
I'm blown away that you have not seen Invader Zim.
You know, I've seen like a bit of it, and I was just like, no, not right now. Not right now.
Ooh, okay.
So we'll see how it turns out at the end of this month. But that's what we'll be doing for New Year's Nicktoons. This has been Saturday Morning Cartoons. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. We hope to see you next time.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.